Dr. Night Echoes. Good evening, everyone. Tonight, we explore real crime cases drawn from investigations and records. These events happened quietly, often unnoticed, while life went on around them. What you are about to hear is real, disturbing, and true. In March 2006, human remains began appearing in the southern areas of Santiago, Chile. The discovery started when a boy in the Puente Alto district noticed a stray dog carrying a human foot. Police were called to the scene. This marked the beginning of one of Chile's most disturbing criminal cases. Over the next several days, more body parts were found in different locations. A head was discovered with visible injuries. Arms, hands, feet, and later a torso were recovered from garbage containers and open areas. All remains were confirmed to belong to the same person. The case became known to the public as Puente Alto's dismembered man. Forensic teams faced difficulty identifying the victim. Many identifying features had been removed. Fingerprints were damaged. Tattoos had been cut away. Investigators used advanced forensic techniques to rebuild fingerprints from small pieces of skin. A partial tattoo was eventually photographed and shared with prisons across the country. On April 6, 2006, police identified the victim as Hans Hernan Pozo Vergara. He was 20 years old. He had lived a difficult life. He was abandoned by his mother at a young age. He spent time in orphanages and later lived on the streets. He struggled with drug addiction and had a criminal record. He had a young daughter. Investigators learned that Pozo had stayed at a shelter shortly before his death. Several people mentioned the name Martinez. Forensic analysis showed that the body had been refrigerated before being dumped. This suggested access to industrial cold storage. Attention turned to Jorge Ivan Martinez Arevalo, a businessman who owned an ice cream shop near the shelter. He had access to industrial freezers. When police went to question him, Martinez died from a gunshot wound. Authorities ruled it a suicide. His family disputed this claim. After his death, a long note was found. In it, Martinez described a complex relationship with Pozo. He claimed Pozo had been extorting him. DNA tests later confirmed they were not related. Blood traces matching Pozo were found in Martinez's shop and vehicle. On May 1st, 2011, a body was found in an abandoned stone quarry on Mount Dundalk near the town of Gyeon in South Korea. The location was remote and rarely visited. What investigators found there was highly unusual. The body belonged to Kim Jun-bong, a 58-year-old taxi driver from Changwon. He was found nailed to a wooden cross. The cross stood upright in the quarry. It measured nearly 2 meters in height. Kim was wearing only white underwear. A crown of thorns was placed on his head. The scene appeared to copy the biblical crucifixion of Jesus. 2 smaller wooden crosses were set up on either side of the main cross. Mirrors were attached to the smaller crosses. A black mirror was placed directly in front of Kim's body. These mirrors reflected his image from different angles. Kim's hands and feet were nailed to the cross. He also had a deep stab wound on the lower right side of his abdomen. The wound was about 10 centimeters long. Investigators believed this injury was meant to resemble the spear wound described in the Bible. Inside a nearby tent, police found paper with the phrase, "Jesus of Nazareth, King of the Jews," written in Hebrew, Greek, and Latin. Kim had once worked as a pastor in Seoul about 30 years earlier. Later in life, he became involved with non-mainstream religious groups. In the months before his death, he began making unusual preparations. He sold his taxi. He gave up his rented room. He bought an SUV and large amounts of lumber. Phone records showed he had been planning something for weeks. The National Forensic Service conducted a full investigation. They found no signs of another person being involved. An electric drill was found in Kim's tent. A manual drill was found near the cross. Examinations showed that the holes in his hands had been drilled before the nails were placed. The cause of death was determined to be a combination of heavy blood loss and suffocation. Nylon strings had been tied tightly around Kim's neck. Investigators also found detailed written instructions and drawings. These documents explained how to build the cross and how to carry out the act step by step. Forensic experts conducted reconstruction tests. They followed Kim's instructions. They concluded that self-crucifixion was physically possible, though extremely painful and difficult. Financial records showed Kim had closed his bank accounts before his death. No DNA or fingerprints from another person were found. On May 17, 2011, police officially closed the case. They ruled Kim Jun-bong's death a suicide. The conclusion was based on forensic evidence, reconstruction experiments, and the absence of any sign of outside involvement. The case remains one of the most unusual death investigations in South Korean history. On January 19, 1996, human remains were found in several locations around Nanjing University in Jiangsu, China. The remains belonged to a 19-year-old student named Diao Aiqing. She had been missing for 9 days. Her body had been cut into more than 2,000 pieces. The case has never been solved. Diao Aiqing was born in March 1976 in Jiangyan, Jiangsu province. She came from a poor family. She had one older sister who left school early to work. Diao continued her studies and did well academically. After failing the national college entrance exam once, she tried again and passed. In October 1995, she moved to Nanjing to study at Nanjing University. She majored in computer applications. People described her as quiet and introverted. To help her focus on school, her family limited contact with her. They did not tell her about major family events. Diao lived in a university dormitory. On the evening of January 10, 1996, there was a dispute in her dormitory. Her roommate had been punished for using an illegal electrical appliance. Diao was expected to help pay the fine. After the argument, Diao left the dormitory. She was wearing a red coat with black lining. She never returned. She was reported missing. Her family was not informed at that time. On January 19th, a sanitation worker was cleaning a street near the university. He found a plastic bag filled with neatly sliced meat. He believed it was pork and took it home. While preparing it, he discovered 3 human fingers. He immediately contacted the police. Police began searching the area. More plastic bags containing human remains were found across 8 locations near and inside the university campus. Some were found near construction sites. Others were found near roads, a stadium, and the main entrance of the university. Later, Diao's head and clothing were found north of the campus. More than 2,000 pieces of human remains were recovered. Many were cut into uniform slices. Investigators found that the head and internal organs had been boiled. Several vital organs were never recovered. Forensic experts identified the victim as female. Her family later confirmed her identity by a mole on her face. Police described the crime as extremely cruel. The cuts were precise. Investigators believed the killer had strong knowledge of human anatomy. They suspected a professional butcher or someone with medical training. Students and staff at the university were investigated. Several suspect profiles were created. No clear suspect was found. After months of investigation, the case reached a dead end. The case remains officially open. Zhao's family returned to their hometown shortly after the discovery. The case caused fear across Nanjing. Years later, it remains one of the most disturbing unsolved crimes in China. Justice has never been found. On 12 February 1993, 2-year-old James Bulger was visiting the New Strand shopping center in Bootle, England, with his mother, Denise. It was a normal afternoon. While inside a butcher's shop, Denise briefly let go of James's hand to pay. When she turned back, he was gone. CCTV cameras later showed what happened next. 2 10-year-old boys, Robert Thompson and John Venables, approached James inside the shopping center. They took him by the hand. At 3:42 p.m., they calmly led him out of the building. No one stopped them. That day, Thompson and Venables were not in school. They had been wandering the area for hours. They were seen shoplifting small items and watching other children. Later, one of the boys said they had already talked about taking a child earlier that day. After leaving the shopping center, they walked James toward the Leeds and Liverpool Canal. There, James was dropped on his head and injured. Witnesses later described him as crying heavily. When people questioned the boys, they said James was their brother, or that they were taking him to a police station. The boys then walked James more than 2 miles across Liverpool. During this time, they were seen by around 38 people. No one intervened. Most believed the explanations they were given. Eventually, the boys reached a railway line in the Walton area. There, the violence continued. James was kicked and struck with stones and bricks. He was injured repeatedly. A heavy metal railway fish plate was dropped onto his head, causing severe skull fractures. Later medical examination showed that James suffered 42 separate injuries. Doctors could not identify a single fatal blow. James was placed on the railway tracks. The intention was to make his death appear accidental. After the boys left, a train passed over his body. 2 days later, James's remains were discovered by children searching for footballs near the tracks. The case immediately drew national attention. Police released CCTV images showing 2 boys walking away with James. The footage was broadcast across the country. A woman recognized one of the boys as John Venables and contacted police. Both boys were arrested shortly after. Forensic evidence linked them to the crime. The trial began in November 1993. Thompson and Venables denied responsibility. The case relied heavily on recorded police interviews and medical evidence. After hearing all testimony, the court found both boys guilty of abduction and murder. At 11 years old, they became the youngest convicted murderers in modern British history. The case caused widespread shock and lasting debate. Questions were raised about child responsibility, punishment, and justice. Decades later, the murder of James Bulger remains one of the most disturbing crimes in British history, not only because of what happened, but because it happened in full public view. John Brennan Crutchley was born on October 1st, 1946, in West Virginia. He grew up in a wealthy family. His childhood was troubled. He later claimed he was abused by his parents and forced to dress as a girl when he was young. As a child, he was isolated and spent most of his time alone. Crutchley was intelligent and skilled with electronics. He studied physics and engineering. He earned advanced degrees and worked as a systems engineer. Over the years, he held jobs with several major technology and defense-related companies. He married twice and lived in multiple states, including Indiana, Virginia, and Florida. To people around him, Crutchley appeared successful and educated. Privately, his behavior was very different. On the night of November 22nd, 1985, a 19-year-old woman named Laura Murphy was found crawling naked along a road in Malabar, Florida. She was handcuffed and badly injured. She had lost a large amount of blood and had marks around her neck. A passing driver stopped and helped her. She begged not to be taken back to a nearby house. At the hospital, Murphy told police she had been picked up while hitchhiking by a man later identified as Crutchley. She said he took her to his home, attacked her, and held her captive. She described being restrained, assaulted, and having blood taken from her body. Doctors later said she would have died within hours if she had not escaped. Police searched Crutchley's home while his family was away. They found restraints, recording equipment, and disturbing evidence. Crutchley was arrested that same night. Some items seen during the first search were later missing, raising further concerns. During the investigation, police found records linking Crutchley to many women. Index cards listed names and details. Identification cards belonging to missing women were found in his possession. Photographs and videotapes were also recovered. In 1986, Crutchley pleaded guilty to kidnapping and rape. He was sentenced to life in prison. He became known publicly as the Vampire Rapist because of his actions toward his victim. After his conviction, investigators began reviewing older missing persons and murder cases. FBI profilers believed Crutchley may have killed before. He was considered a suspect in multiple disappearances and deaths across several states. Some victims were found. Others were never located. No direct evidence was found to charge him in those cases. Crutchley died in prison in 2002 at the age of 55. Many questions remain unanswered. Several families never received closure. While he was only convicted of one crime, investigators believe his true number of victims may never be known. The case remains one of the most disturbing examples of hidden violence behind a normal public life.